Today on the Engage with Tech podcast, we're going to be talking to Giles Inkson, who's Director of Services at NetSpy. We're first going to get a basic understanding of cybersecurity and then delve a little bit deeper into AI and its ethical concerns. Then we're going to talk about DORA, which is the European Union's Regulation Act for Financial Services. And then we're going to discuss what candidates and clients can do to upskill their knowledge in this area. So without further ado, let's get into it. Hi, Giles. Thank you very much for appearing on the Engage with Tech podcast. How are you doing today?
Great, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Good. Thank you. It's a pleasure to have you. So, if we could just start off with you telling us a bit about your role at NetSpy and what you do currently.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess I kind of wear two hats. One of those is I'm a director, so I look after a service line, and the other one is I'm a security tester. And that is there's lots of different types, but I'm a specific type. So I'm kind of a what's called a red teamer, which is a subset of penetration tester. Essentially, I break into businesses. I sort of hack businesses to raise awareness, to to be able to test security and to help them improve, build new culture, and try and improve what they do. Obviously, this is not not without warning. This is something that they come to us for. So we it's all part of that process and that service.
Perfect. So, like me, some of the listeners out there might not really have much of an idea of the sort of depth of cybersecurity. Could you maybe just give me a little rundown on what cybersecurity involves at face value?
Yeah, absolutely. So cybersecurity is something that's important for all of us. It is around protecting data. So that could be things like people's information. Maybe, banks might need to protect information about your money or where you live or all of that type of thing as well. But equally, cybersecurity is around sort of protecting things like maybe it's the power stations, maybe it's oil and gas places where, the energy that we use is produced, or maybe it's the sort of thing where governments hold data about you, all those types of things as well. There are lots of different sort of places and areas where your data needs to be protected or access to it that sort of enables modern life. Technology and ICT is in everything that we do. Cybersecurity is about keeping that safe the way we intended it to be and available to everyone where it needs to be.
And I'm assuming the implications of when businesses don't use it can be pretty severe then. Lots and lots of money lost, and I suppose intellectual property as well.
Absolutely, yes. So if you're not looking after the cybersecurity of your business, then the things that you do to enable that business, maybe for instance, you might sell a service, you might have to deliver to people. That right, that ability, the law backing you to be able to do that may no longer be there. You may not have the privilege of being able to say deliver things to your clients, or to be able to do all sorts of different things. In banks, for instance, they can take away the right for that bank to be a bank. And I think that's the kind of the thing is that because it's an enabler, not being able to use computers, ICT, that type of thing, is very much disabling for a lot of businesses, and it keeps them moving, keeps them turning, keeps them able to operate.
And would you say the significance of having cybersecurity has actually increased due to the enhancement of AI recently, especially within the last few years?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think one of the really important things here is there are groups out there. There are sort of criminal groups out there that will want to sort of damage your systems. For instance, they might want to do things something called ransomwaring or do ransomware attacks, if you will. You may some of those have been in the news. Essentially, there are people, organizations, groups out there that will want to sort of take away that intellectual property or take away that ability to operate and sort of extort you for cash. And I think that's one of the things, one of the elements. But equally, sort of in the era of things like AI, for instance, it's a great enabler. So it enables us to do things that might have been complex, and that works for both people who are trying to build a business and to operate and to do things, but also about those who might wish to do it harm, or might want to get access for some reason. Both of those, it creates the sort of arms race situation where the ability of both is going up and up and up and up and up. And what we're seeing is that kind of competitiveness in both areas. Both the defenders and the attackers and the threats themselves are essentially getting much more prolific, much more capable very rapidly at the moment.
Yeah, it's a pretty scary place to be, but like you say, it's coming from both directions. So I suppose AI is being used as an enhancement of cybersecurity, but also as something that can attack software as well. Um, just a few stats here, really. So I found ransomware attacks grew by 95% in 2023, with attackers demanding millions from businesses. So a 95% increase in 2023. I think that's just pretty stark, don't you?
It's a sign that it's increasing in volume and popularity.
Yeah.
I think, as you rightly mentioned, I don't think necessarily that's a sort of a fear thing. This is about being prepared, and that's what the kind of the art of cybersecurity is about building that awareness and preparation and practice to be able to sort of operate in this environment where this is more present. If you efficiently secure your business and the way that it operates, then these things should be much less. But you just need to be aware of that potential threat and plan for it. Be proactive. That's what we are finding is kind of that's the environment that we're coming to now. It's an important concern. Things like revenue protection or good accounts or kind of good marketing or good kind of all of these different functions in a business. This is something that has grown there has grown a need for it in the last sort of even sort of 10, 15 years. But even now we're seeing the rapid maturity of that market in the last sort of 5 years or so, where it's becoming part of the common awareness of the kind of the world that, oh, this is happening. Oh, crikey. Okay, we need to start preparing for this.
Yeah. And it's things like deep fakes have become pretty common as well. I think I was reading that $243,000 was taken after someone mimicked a CEO's voice. I think that was a German company. So it's just like you say, it's becoming more accessible for criminals. I think that's a scary place to be, but also like you say, and you keep coming back to, it's the point that AI can be used as a defense as well. Um, so let's move on to talk about the sort of common security blind spots that companies have had and you've found with working with NetSpy.
Yeah, I mean, there's many things that can be done right, and there's many things that can be done wrong, ostensibly,
Mm.
arguably. The I think the common thing is and this is the difficult part to kind of course correct, if you will, get the basics right. If you get the basics right and you continue to apply those, and in the moment when you make a business decision about how you configure something or the technology that you buy, that you are aware of cybersecurity as part of that decision making process, that's really, really important. Configuration for ease and configuration for security, often people think they're in contention with each other. They don't need to be. There is great technology out there that makes security easy. And I think people need to approach it with that much more open mindset that just because it might read as something complex the first time you encounter it doesn't mean it's a complex thing. It just means it's a new thing. And I think we need to, this is the kind of the new thing fear that comes out quite a bit. There are a million products out there that to try and help you navigate that security. You just need to be able to do the evaluation and in the moment think about the decision that you're making about the structure of your business, the way that things are configured, what technology you use or what suppliers you use, and just take a moment and pause for a second, think about it in the lens of cybersecurity, and that's kind of the world that we need to live in now. It's a journey for everybody, myself included, and I work in the field, so
Yeah. Yeah.
it's not perfect.
Constantly learning, I suppose,
Yes,
with
absolutely that.
all the enhancements of the technology. So, have you got any stories about personal stories from NetSpy of you probably can't be specific with companies. I'm sure you can't be. But have you got any personal stories of uh, very obvious blind spots that companies should have already had under control?
I think the biggest one, and this is, this could apply to any client. Obviously, our clients are very precious to us, so I wouldn't name names. That's
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
that's an
you can't
important
be
part of
doing
our discretionary process, if you will. But the important thing for us is, and the thing that I see time and time again, and again, this kind of comes back to the basics piece. Things like password security. Making that choice about what password to use is often people think it's a difficult decision to get a secure password. It's not. It's not necessarily a difficult decision. You've got to believe that you can remember the thing. If you tell yourself beforehand, then you won't. And it's got to be something that you can apply to it. Often we kind of recommend, for instance, things like passphrases instead of passwords. So rather than sort of something simple like someone you love's birthday and then an exclamation mark, or the season and then the year, or something like that we see a lot of.
that.
Surprisingly, there's a significant amount of that everywhere in the world.
Yeah.
Actually looking at things like passphrases, so chucking some words together. So some advice from places like NCSC, for instance, sort of said about the multi-word passphrase. So two, three, four words together that you might recognize, with some special characters and some numbers thrown in there to mix it up a bit to make it more complex. Those are things that can help you with better password security. It might be easy to remember four words rather than a long string of random numbers. Both of those give you a higher level of security than you know, summer 2025 exclamation mark, if you will.
Yeah, of course. I suppose that's the most basic level of security that you're talking about there, really.
I mean, it definitely is something we see everywhere. You could
Yeah.
almost apply it to every single client everywhere, every business everywhere, because there will always be people in those businesses that feel they can't do that, and that choice that's made in the moment of, "Oh, but this is really difficult to remember," or I'll just stick it in a spreadsheet and stick it in a share somewhere, or something like that. We all do it, and we all do those types of habits. But if you can start to better oneself, that's when and encourage that within the business. That would make a significant difference to the ability for that organization to be attacked. And it's super simple, super basic, and it would have a massive effect globally.
That is surprising how such a simple thing can make that much of an impact. Um, so let's move on to what our potential candidates could be doing then. So, if you were a junior tech professional right now, starting off your journey, what would you look to specialize in cybersecurity specifically?
I'm biased. I know I would always go for my own job, but there are many, 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 many different things that you can do. For instance, cybersecurity is a really, really, really wide field. People see it as just, it's just people wearing tech hats that can do that. There are now, because we're maturing quite a bit in this space, there are a million different roles that you can go for. So, for instance, you could go towards much more sort of risk and compliance focused, sort of looking at the business risk of things and sort of quantifying that, helping the business plan against that. That's one element. You could do kind of what I do, which is it's kind of the security testing discipline, if you will, for want of a better way of putting it. Pen testers or penetration testers, as they're called. Um, that's another element as well. Also, there's the kind of the defensive side of things too. So looking at sort of working for a business to be able to maintain and operate and plan good security for it. We often call those sort of SOCs, or security operations centers. Or things like, for instance, incident response, and sort of threat hunting. So looking for those threats out there, or doing response, helping businesses recover from attacks against them, and sort of helping them sort of get back to an operational standard and sort of get them out of those networks. There's many, many different roles. And most of those are kind of within the tech stack. There's also, sort of helping with business culture and awareness. So helping understand and socialize what a phishing email looks like, or, sort of all the way up to things like CISO level role, where you are a member of the board. That's not often something that someone, coming out of other employment or out of university or college or school or whatever it might be could do easily.
Mm.
But kind of in terms of career transition, they are expected to be a key component of the business, kind of work across all of those culture, technology, and all of those different elements as well. It's much broader set of roles now than it used to be. I would encourage going to sort of the sort of the expos and the fairs and the kind of the community events that are out there. There's great things like B-sides, for instance, are all sort of community driven. They have all sorts of things from employers to testers to people doing security talks, and it gets you a good flavour of all the things that are out there. Um, have a look, see which appeals to your sort of your drive, what you want to do. Most of us are in this for an ethical reason because we want to make the world a better place. Figure out how that plugs into what you want to do, because I think that's a really important thing. If you feel impassioned to do it, then
Mm.
it will be something that you enjoy and makes a long-term career, not just a short-term job, if you will.
I love that. I love that. So, coming from a different angle, then, how would you persuade someone to get into cybersecurity if they're not sure what they want to be doing in the tech world?
So everybody has a different story. There are different ways that you can approach it. Some people go to university and do things like computer science, or sort of cybersecurity management as well is a much more of a thing now, as far as university goes. There are great apprenticeship schemes out there, to be able to get into that pathway, and those often lead into sort of jobs with public sector, for instance. Organisations like NCSC have a sort of a scheme that they do. There's also sort of professional and vocational. Maybe you've already got a job. Maybe you work in a field like IT, like I did. I'm a recovering sysadmin, as I like to say. That could be something, a sort of a career transition. There are also, sort of lots of training courses out there and organisations. You can do practice of things like a lot of our people in my discipline do, which is go on to things like Hack the Box, Try Hack Me, various other sort of safe places to try security testing that you're not breaking into other people's system and breaking the law.
Mm.
Those are other things as well to get the practice, and then it's a case of getting yourself out there, get in front of employers, because cybersecurity as a market is a dynamic market. You need to be able to sort of show your passion, because it's a lot of people are in it for the passion, and if they see that in you and that drive, that's something that will often be recognized in employers out there in the world. Whether or not you've gone through any of those pathways, you
Mm.
might just find yourself at a career point where it's like, I fancy a change and this looks really interesting, but I need to build some knowledge and some skills. You can self-start, you can pay for courses, you can go on to things and show that. I mean, I've got a certificate in hand, can
Mm.
help start those conversations. It doesn't win you the job. There's not really anything that wins you the job.
Yeah.
A lot of it's down to personality, cult of personality, unfortunately, for me, probably.
And I think that's true with more or less every job, to be honest
Mhm.
with you. It's having that desire, that passion, and that, I suppose, that mindset that you want to continuously learn within that sector. Um, so, would you agree or disagree that there's a skills gap and demand for AI literate cybersecurity professionals then? Because obviously we've been talking about AI and how it's enhancing both sides of the story. But what do you think?
Yes. I mean, it's a growing market, so there will always be a shortage. Cybersecurity is, we're always looking for more people from more backgrounds to be able to extend and expand the capability that we've got. Equally, with the emergence of AI, there's a lot more sort of data science literate professionals kind of needed, statisticians, as
Yeah,
they used to be
there's a
called,
hard
and
word.
yeah, it's one of those ones that doesn't really roll off the tongue. Sort of, being able to work with data and sort of manipulate that data into usable format is something that's incredibly important, both in terms of driving and shaping the way that we use AI, but also as an enabler with AI and as your co-pilot, if you will, or your kind of your wing person, those types of things. Um,
Mhm.
it's incredibly important to be able to leverage it, and working with data is at the heart of everything we do.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I was at a Connected Futures event literally this week, and someone from Nokia was explaining how they're trying a new recruitment process. So they're actually specifically looking for people with those AI skills as a top level. That's what they're prioritizing, and it's really interesting to see that that's probably the shift that more and more companies are going to be making. I suppose. Do you reckon that's going to be the same in cybersecurity then?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a need for it. It's comes from two areas, and that's from those who can build and create models and sort of create new ways of working with models, and that there are those who can effectively use it as a tool to supercharge what they're doing. And
Mm.
those two key components, I don't think people are really differentiating in the way that we should or could. If you can, if you can work with AI to be able to build new capabilities within AI, incredibly important as well, as much as can I use it to safely accelerate what I'm doing, to be as a productivity enhancer. And I think both of those things are really important to be able to demonstrate in the job market at the moment.
I completely agree with you. I think it's the same with the creative sector as well. So I work in marketing. I think Gen AI should be used as a tool to enhance your creativity rather than replace it. I think that's the sort of thing that you're saying there.
Yes.
Uh, so if we're looking at specific AI related skills, then what do you think would be the most valuable in cybersecurity jobs at the moment, or even in the next 5 years?
So if you're looking at technical, the technical side of things, then sort of coding capability, a bit of sort of data science enthusiasm, I think
Yeah.
is the most important thing. Skill is something that we all build up over time, but enthusiasm is the thing that drives skill, and I think that's really, really important and will be for the next 5 to 10 years easily. Um, those are kind of the main things if you're going to do it technically. As someone who is a badge holding person with dyscalculia, mathematics is something that a lot of people want if you're going to go really, really deep. But anybody, even myself, I've learned the fundamental skills in that kind of thing to be able to be proficient with AI. So don't assume that mathematics and knowledge of mathematics is a barrier. These are all skills we can all pick up. You just need to identify that those will be something you want to engage with at some point. Equally, the sort of the ability to use is a key skill as well that I think is important too.
Yeah. So if it's to move on to something completely different now, something that you've been working on, it's DORA.
Hmm.
So can you explain to me, because I have no real idea what DORA is, and I'm sure a lot of people out there listening won't have much of an idea of what DORA is. Could you just explain in simple terms?
Yeah, so DORA is much like GDPR was a big thing. Some people will be aware of that. It's a set of legislation that Europe is taking on at the moment, but we've also got a very similar set of legislation in the UK as well. And a lot of businesses that work across both will have to comply to DORA. It's essentially a law that puts into place and mandates a a type of testing that a lot of banks and financial institutions have already done, but it's extending that out to a wider market. Essentially, it means that you have to do much more strong, kind of capable, well thought out testing, share information about threats, where you see them, where you perceive them, what's going on with your market peers, check your suppliers more. Don't just trust, verify kind of your supply chain and make sure that they're not a way in which your business could be compromised. Equally, it's also enforcing sort of a stronger standard of red teaming, which was voluntary but is now mandatory for certain businesses. So the aim of all of this is a law and a framework that will make sure that businesses that hold our money, or the businesses that support them, their ability to operate is protected. So it's operational resiliency is what we call it. That means that someone couldn't take your high street bank out of action and you not be able to pay your mortgage, your bills, buy shopping, feed your children, or all the different things that we need to do, because those banks are tested as being resilient to attacks all the way up to hostile nation state level as much as we possibly can.
I see. Okay. So obviously it has a certain level of importance because it's legislation.
Mm-hmm.
But why has this legislation been rolled out then? What's the main reason? Is it because of enhanced threats?
There is an element of, it's a changing world. We're seeing a lot more attention on Europe at the moment, for sort of various reasons. But equally, it's because of this is kind of what was once voluntary is now mandatory. Because it was such a good level of improvement that was shown, they're extending that out more widely to a larger subset, to a larger audience, which means that they've seen how useful and beneficial this is. They want that to be adopted more widely, and they're trying to, through legislation, make that happen rather than suggesting it's a good thing to do. Now it must be done.
I see. Okay. And so at NetSpy, what are you doing to specifically help these companies then?
So we do all sorts. We're doing everything from sort of general advisory and helping them understand what's involved, getting ready, getting practiced, all the way through to practical testing of all of the different types that are required by DORA. So that's everything like vulnerability testing. So looking for the vulnerabilities in individual systems or services, all the way through to the kind of the advanced red teaming standards. So what we call adversary simulation, which is where the great way of describing this is we break into banks for a living. That's the dinner party way of describing the job.
Yeah.
But actually, it's a lot. There's a lot more paperwork involved, sadly. But that's the all. But we help people all the way up to that level, and that could be walking into buildings, testing them physically, testing them through IT systems, through people, social engineering, all sorts of different things. And we employ all of the techniques that the threats would do to be able to help your business practice, get fit, if you will, against those threats.
Okay, love that. So, if we're looking at key takeaways from the discussion that we've had, then specifically for candidates, I know that you said enthusiasm, continuous learning are key things that all candidates should have. But what is one piece of advice you would give to someone who's looking to develop their career in cybersecurity?
Be persistent. Um,
Persist. Yeah.
Persistence is key because I find myself in a very fortunate position now. Where I look after what I consider to be a very capable business with an excellent team, and I'm lucky enough to have made it to that stage. Even then, it took me 5 years to break into cyber as a sort of a long-standing IT professional, and I went out and I got qualifications. I did everything I could. I got turned away more times than I dare to count,
Mm.
but got there in the end because I was persistent, because I was tenacious, because I wanted it, and I fundamentally wanted that into I wanted to build the skills. I wanted to build the bridge the gap, if you will. That's the key bit. Persistence. Don't be put off by a bit of resistance. If you can find a way to work your way towards it, maybe you have to find something that's in the right field, but build your way to it, or maybe you have to, there's a lot to be said for being resilient, being persistent, and being enthusiastic because it's not a well-defined jobs market. So people have to find you. And if you're not there as much as you can be, your chance of being found, your chance of making that leap into a profession that lots of people want to do is going to be significantly reduced.
I think that's brilliant, and I'm sure you will have helped so many people listening to this. So thank you so much, Giles. Is there anything more you'd like to add?
No, that's all. Thank you for having me.
Perfect. Thank you very much.